One of the most important tasks we expect our media to perform is to help us to remember, to help us to make connections between the past and the present and the future, and between actions and their consequences. And it is important in that context for us to be able to frame ethical or moral or matters of transparency or matters of accountability, to frame them in the broader context of what it is we are trying to protect. So, for example, if you are old enough, you remember that some years ago when Edward Seaga was Prime Minister, he developed his own private business, Carinosa, at a place that could benefit from cruise shipping. And what he clearly did was to use the privilege of office to do some investment on his own that would benefit from actions taken in the public interest, insider advantage. And after the public outcry, Edward Seaga put together a commission which came to the conclusion that this should never be done again. Recently, the Minister of Agriculture benefited from free Mombasa grass from the dairy board. And when also he appeared to have facilitated the importation of milk powder from Colombia over the protests of members of the executive, one of the eventual outcome was the dismissal of the CEO of the dairy board, Hugh Graham. Somehow or the other, Mr. Samuda and others have managed to frame this as a kind of personal matter between him and the opposition spokesman on agriculture, Dr. Dayton Campbell, in which Mr. Samuda, a man of his ilk, coming from the background in the 21st century, says of Dr. Dayton Campbell that he's a piece of waste. Now, I think a brown man does not have that right in 20th century Jamaica to speak about a black man like that without evoking very, very significant historical memories. But leave that alone for the moment. Peter Bunting raised in his capacity as the opposition spokesman on national security some concerns about the manner in which used cars were being imported or ostensibly being imported for the police, and questioned both the process and the outcome and the judicious nature of the particular decision. He raised some very important matters. One of them was whether there was a proper procurement process. The other was whether the person selected was fit and proper, having regard to some of his antecedents. And thirdly, he raised a question as whether or not this would be value for money. Why are we flying in the face of the expertise that we have set up? The way this has been framed, and I see somebody putting it out there in the paper, daring him to speak out in the public, and the media asking the principal the question, is as if it's Peter Bunting's question, not Jamaica's question. Rather than asking the tough questions, the media has embarked recently, if you pay attention to some of the coverage, on a kind of PR campaign for people that ought to be challenged in the public interest. Recently, there was a coverage of one Tesha Miller that said that the only clan he has is his family. Yeah, fine, he can say that. But what about the story, though? What about police intelligence? What about the matters for which he has been tried? Are there some follow-up questions? And the reference to the particular used car dealer who is saying, sue me, that he will sue. Ask him the question. Ask him the question, does he have antecedents that disqualify him from holding this? And what has happened to those antecedents? What does he say if there are, in fact, traces, adverse traces? How does he, without any experience, having never imported cars, certainly not in substantial numbers before, how does he land this contract? Let him answer. Let him speak, because these are not matters of personalities or party. These are matters that go to the heart of good governance, of transparency, of protecting the public interest, of knowing your customer and knowing your supplier. These are real questions that I think an enterprising media cannot afford to fall asleep on. We are witnessing the demise of a kind of culture. We are witnessing a throwback to feudalism. There's a parallel between Donald Trump firing Mr. James Comey, the head of FBI, and Carl Samuda firing Hugh Graham. The difference is, in the US, there is a commission in the public interest investigating the propriety of all concerned with this. In Jamaica, it is a matter of party politics or personalities alone. We ignore these things to our peril as a community. We have to begin to treat with ethical concerns as a serious, serious matter. And I want to warn, Carl Samuda, who ought to know better, spoke of Dayton Campbell as a piece of waste, right? He said this. He is trifling with the future of this country. Don't you rouse the anger of the ordinary Jamaican. They are not piece of waste. And when one of their sons get to be a doctor and raise this question, find another way to say it, Carl. Black people have taken a lot and they don't intend to start it all over again. Let us remember, lest we forget.